May 6th, 1943, 11:47 p.m. Mid-Atlantic, 600 miles west of Ireland. Captain Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann stands in the conning tower of U-456, scanning the horizon through his Zeiss binoculars. The sea is calm. The night is dark. His crew of 48 men sleeps in shifts below, exhausted from 32 days at sea. They have sunk 2 Allied freighters in the past week. Morale is high. They believe they are winning. Then the radio crackles. A coded message from U-boat headquarters in Lorient, France. Hartmann decodes it himself. The message is 3 words. Rückzug sofort. Befehl. Retreat immediately. Order. Hartmann stares at the message. He has been hunting convoys in these waters for 3 years. He knows every current, every Allied patrol route, every weakness in their defenses. He has 14 confirmed kills. He has received the Knight's Cross from Admiral Donitz himself. And now they are telling him to run? He crumples the message and throws it into the North Atlantic. He does not retreat. He does not turn back. He continues the hunt. 11 minutes later, his submarine and everyone inside it would be obliterated by a technology so devastating that it would end Germany's dominance of the Atlantic in a matter of months. What happened to U-456 was not just a tactical defeat. It was the moment German Naval Command realized they were fighting an enemy that could see in the dark, hunt in the fog, and kill with precision from the sky. And the most bitter part? The technology that destroyed them was based on research German scientists had pioneered, tested, and then abandoned as militarily useless. Let me show you what 11 minutes of technological superiority looks like when one side has it and the other does not. By May 1943, the Battle of the Atlantic had been raging for nearly 4 years. German U-boats, the dreaded Unterseeboot, had sunk over 3,000 Allied ships. They operated in coordinated wolf packs, ambushing convoys, strangling Britain's supply lines, and pushing the Allies to the edge of starvation and defeat. Winston Churchill would later write that the U-boat peril was the only thing that truly frightened him during the entire war. The German submariners called it die glückliche Zeit, the happy time. Between 1940 and early 1942, U-boats sank Allied ships faster than they could be replaced. A single submarine could sink 4, 5, even 6 merchant vessels in a single patrol. The odds were heavily in their favor. The Atlantic was vast. Allied convoys were slow and predictable. Detection technology was primitive. Most U-boats returned home safely. But by the spring of 1943, something had changed. U-boat losses were spiking. In March, 6 U-boats were lost. In April, 15. In May, the month Hartmann received his retreat order, 41 U-boats would be destroyed. That's 41 submarines and over 1,800 men, gone in 31 days. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, could not understand it. His captains were experienced. Their submarines were technologically advanced, equipped with snorkels, electric motors, and acoustic torpedoes. They followed doctrine. They operated in groups. They attacked at night when Allied ships could not see them. So why were they dying? Here is what German naval intelligence knew, but most U-boat captains did not. The Allies had deployed a new aircraft-mounted radar system called the ASV Mark III, operating on a 10-centimeter wavelength. This was a revolutionary shift from earlier 1.5-meter wavelength systems. The 10-centimeter radar could detect a submarine's conning tower from up to 12 miles away, even in total darkness, even in heavy fog, even when the submarine was running on the surface to recharge batteries. And here's the part that should haunt anyone studying this. German scientists at Telefunken had experimented with centimetric radar in the late 1930s. They understood the physics. They built prototypes. But German military leadership concluded that the engineering challenges were too difficult, the production costs too high, and the tactical applications too limited. They abandoned the research. The British and Americans did not. By 1943, Allied aircraft, particularly the American B-24 Liberators and British Sunderland flying boats, were equipped with the SV Mark III radar. powerful ley lights for visual confirmation, and depth charges specifically designed to kill submarines. They could hunt U-boats 24 hours a day. They did not need to see the submarine. The radar saw it for them. U-boat captains started reporting strange encounters, aircraft appearing out of nowhere, attacks at night when visibility was zero, depth charges landing with impossible accuracy. But many, like Hartmann, refused to believe it. They thought it was luck, bad weather, coincidence. It was not. Let me show you what happened in those 11 minutes. 11:47 p.m. Hartmann ignores the retreat order. U-456 continues northwest at 12 knots. Diesel engines running, recharging the batteries. Standard procedure. The submarine needs to surface regularly to run the diesels. Submerged, it can only operate on electric power for a limited time before the batteries drain. Every U-boat captain knows this. It is not optional. You surface or you die. 11:51 p.m. 487 miles to the east, a British RAF Coastal Command Sunderland flying boat, callsign Victor Charlie 2, piloted by Flight Lieutenant James Thornton, is on routine anti-submarine patrol. His crew has been airborne for 6 hours. They have seen nothing. Then the radar operator, Sergeant Arthur Mills, notices a contact on his ASV mark, the third screen. Range, 11 miles. Bearing, 273 degrees. A small metallic object on the surface. Mills reports it. Thornton alters course. The Sunderland turns toward the contact. 11:53 p.m. Hartmann is still in the conning tower. He does not hear the Sunderland. The aircraft is too far away, and the wind and diesel engines mask the sound. He scans the horizon. Nothing. Empty ocean. He lights a cigarette. 11:54 p.m. The Sunderland closes to 6 miles. The radar contact is stronger now. Definitely metallic. Definitely moving. Thornton descends to 800 feet. He orders the ley light operator, Corporal Dennis Fletcher, to prepare for illumination. The ley light is a 22 million candle power searchlight mounted under the aircraft's wing. When activated, it turns night into day for a radius of 1 mile. 11:56 p.m. The Sunderland is now 2 miles away. Hartmann still does not know it is there. He finishes his cigarette and flicks it into the water. He is thinking about the convoy routes. He is planning tomorrow's attack. He is confident. 11:57 p.m. Thornton gives the order of. Fletcher flips the switch. The ley light ignites. A blinding white column of light stabs down from the sky and locks onto U-456. For a brief, frozen second, Hartmann sees his submarine, illuminated like a stage under a spotlight. Every rivet, every hatch, every man in the conning tower, exposed. He sees the Sunderland roaring toward him, 800 feet above, massive, inevitable. He screams the alarm. Flugzeug, Alarmtauchen, aircraft, crash dive! But it is too late. 11:58 p.m. The Sunderland is directly overhead. Thornton's bomb aimer releases 4 depth charges in a perfect straddle pattern. Each charge weighs 250 pounds and is set to detonate at 25 feet. They follow. Hartmann and his deck watch are scrambling down the hatch. The submarine's bow is tilting down. The vents are open. Water is flooding the ballast tanks. The dive is beginning. The depth charges hit the water. 2 seconds later, they detonate. The explosions are catastrophic. The first charge detonates 15 feet from U-456's stern, rupturing the outer hull and bending the propeller shafts. The second explodes directly beneath the control room, crushing the pressure hull inward and killing everyone in that compartment instantly. The third detonates near the bow, ripping open the forward torpedo room. The fourth is a near miss, but the combined hydrostatic shock is more than the submarine can withstand. U-456's hull fractures in 3 places. Seawater floods in at 2,000 pounds per square inch. The submarine's structural integrity collapses. The men inside are killed by the pressure wave, the flooding, or the implosion of the hull itself. Those in the conning tower, including Hartmann, are thrown into the sea by the blast. Thornton circles back. His tail gunner, Sergeant William Hayes reports wreckage on the surface. Oil slick, debris, no survivors visible. 11:58 p.m., May 6, 1943. U-456 and her entire crew of 48 men are gone. The attack from radar detection to destruction took 11 minutes. Hartmann's body was never recovered. None of the crew survived. Here's what makes this moment so significant. U-456 was not unlucky. It was not an isolated incident. It was the new reality of the Atlantic War. Between May 1st and May 24th, 1943, Allied forces sank 31 U-boats. Most of them were destroyed by aircraft using a SV Mark III radar. The technology was so effective that Dönitz, on May 24th, made a decision that would alter the course of the war. He withdrew all U-boats from the North Atlantic. Let me say that again. The commander of the German U-boat fleet, the man who had brought Britain to the edge of starvation, ordered his submarines to retreat. Not because they ran out of torpedoes, not because they ran out of fuel, but because they were being hunted and killed faster than they could be replaced. The Battle of the Atlantic, the longest continuous campaign of World War II, was effectively over. Germany had lost. And the technology that won it? Centimetric radar. The same technology German scientists had researched and abandoned. But let us go deeper. Let me show you the tactical nightmare U-boat crews faced once the Allies deployed this system. Before a SV Mark III, U-boats had a fighting chance. Allied aircraft relied on visual detection, which required daylight or moonlight. U-boat captains surfaced at night, recharged batteries, and dove before dawn. If they spotted an aircraft during the day, they had 30 to 45 seconds to crash dive before the plane could close the distance and attack. That was enough time. But a SV Mark III changed the equation. The radar did not care about darkness. It did not care about fog. It did not care about weather. A U-boat running on the surface was visible to radar at ranges of 10 to 15 miles. An aircraft traveling at 180 miles per hour could cover that distance in less than 5 minutes. By the time the U-boat's lookouts heard the engines, the plane was already overhead. German submariners tried everything. They installed radar detectors called METOX, which could theoretically detect Allied radar emissions. But a SV Mark III operated on a wavelength METOX could not detect up. The detectors were useless. Some captains tried staying submerged longer, running on batteries, surfacing only when absolutely necessary. But batteries drained quickly, and prolonged submersion meant slower speeds, less mobility, and higher vulnerability to depth charge attacks from destroyers. Others tried traveling in groups, hoping that multiple lookouts could spot aircraft earlier. But that just created larger radar signatures. The more U-boats in one area, the easier they were to find. There was no tactical counter. The technology had shifted. The Allies could see. The Germans could not. Here is a specific example that illustrates the scale of this shift. In the first 20 days of May 1943, Allied forces in the North Atlantic destroyed 25 U-boats. Of those, 18 were sunk by aircraft. Of those 18, 14 were detected first by a SV Mark III radar. The kill rate was staggering. Before May 1943, a U-boat had roughly a 75% chance of surviving a patrol. By the end of May, that survival rate had dropped to less than 50%, and it kept falling. By the end of 1943, 237 U-boats had been lost. That is nearly 3 times the losses of 1942. Of the 1,162 U-boats built by Germany during the war, 783 were destroyed. Of the approximately 40,000 men who served in the U-boat fleet, 28,000 were killed. That is a 70% fatality rate. It was the highest casualty rate of any military branch in World War II, on any side. Now let us talk about the human element. The psychological cost. U-boat crews were volunteers. They were highly trained, elite sailors who believed they were the tip of the spear in Germany's war effort. They had their own songs, their own traditions, their own code. They called themselves the Grey Wolves. They were respected, even romanticized within the German military. But by mid-1943, morale was collapsing. Submariners knew the odds. They knew that every patrol might be their last. They knew that when an aircraft appeared, there was almost no chance of escape. Some crews refused to surface, even when batteries were nearly dead, because they were too terrified of being caught on the surface. Others surfaced only in the worst weather, hoping the storms would ground Allied aircraft. A few captains ignored orders entirely and stayed in port, claiming mechanical issues. Dönitz tried to maintain discipline. He gave speeches. He awarded medals. He promised new technology, better submarines, acoustic torpedoes, snorkel systems that allowed submerged diesel operation. But the promises could not change the reality. The U-boat war was lost. And here is the cruelest irony. While German U-boat crews were being slaughtered in the Atlantic, German scientists were developing the Type 21 U-boat, a revolutionary design that was faster, quieter, and could remain submerged for weeks. If the Type 21 had been deployed in 1943 instead of 1945, the Atlantic War might have been very different. But it was not. Germany prioritized tanks, aircraft, and rockets. The Type 21 did not enter service until the final weeks of the war, far too late to matter. So, here is the lesson from U-456 and the 782 other U-boats that were destroyed. Technology wins wars. Not just having it, but deploying it. The Germans pioneered centimetric radar and then abandoned it. The Allies developed it and deployed it. That decision, more than tactics, more than training, more than courage, determined the outcome of the Battle of the Atlantic. Hartmann was an experienced captain. His crew was well trained. They followed procedures. They were brave. But none of that mattered when the other side could see in the dark, and you could not. Let me bring this full circle. On May 24, 1943, Admiral Dönitz sent a message to all U-boat commanders in the Atlantic. The situation has changed. The enemy has new detection methods we cannot counter. All boats are to withdraw to safer waters until further notice. It was an admission of defeat, the first time in the war that Germany had been forced to cede control of a strategic theater. The withdrawal did not save the U-boat fleet. It just delayed the inevitable. Over the next 2 years, hundreds more U-boats were lost as the Allies tightened their technological and tactical grip. By May 1945, when Germany surrendered, the U-boat arm had been utterly destroyed. And it all started with 11 minutes on May 6, 1943, when a captain ignored a warning, and the technology he did not know existed found him in the dark. Here is my question for you. Knowing that German scientists had the research for centimetric radar in the 1930s, do you think the Battle of the Atlantic could have ended differently if Germany had prioritized that technology? Or was the industrial and scientific capacity of the Allies always going to win regardless of what Germany developed? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I want to see this debated. If this changed how you understand the Battle of the Atlantic, hit that like button and subscribe for more history that reveals the technology and decisions that determine the outcomes of the most critical battles in history. Thanks for watching.